The boy, soaked in the rain, walked into the mansion of a billionaire. Just by pointing at the picture of a woman on the wall, the whole house became silent. But what made your eyes almost fall out was one sentence that this boy said, a sentence that changed the past and revealed a secret that had been buried for more than 10 years. Don't rush to skip it. Heavy rain fell, because the ending might make you cry. Thunder roared to the sky. Strong winds sent leaves swirling across the front of the mansion. Grandfather Vic Hahn sat sipping tea, his eyes gazing out the window. The dim light reflected off the porcelain cup. Outside the house, a young boy stood soaked to the skin. His clothes were tattered. His bare feet were covered in mud. He stood, trembling, eyes fixed on the grand mansion. Grandfather rose to his feet, opened the door hesitantly. His eyes were cold, but filled with curiosity. "Come in and get out of rain," his hoarse voice said softly. The boy lowered his head and stepped inside slowly. Raindrops trailed behind him on the marble floor. Silence blanketed the room. Only the sound of an old clock ticking could be heard. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The boy looked up. His eyes were drawn to a large framed photograph on the wall. It was a young woman in a school uniform, smiling brightly, standing beneath a cherry blossom tree. The boy pointed at the photo. His small finger trembled. Then, with a calm, icy voice, he said, "She is my mother." Grandfather Vic Hahn froze. The teacup slipped from his hand and shattered on the marble floor. The sound of breaking glass. The sound of a heartbeat thrown out of rhythm. The sound of a past rushing back into memory. He turned to look at the boy. Those eyes, they resembled someone. Far too much to be a coincidence. His lips quivered. His vision blurred. His hands clenched tightly. Impossible. She died 10 years ago. The boy stepped closer, pulled a small locket from his shirt pocket, and opened it. Inside, the same photo as the one on the wall, with faint words engraved. "To my son, from your mother, Mina." Grandfather collapsed to the floor. The coldness of the marble was nothing compared to the chill in his heart. The rain continued outside, but inside the house, only silence remained, and one question that no one dared to ask. The boy stood in front of him, locking eyes with the old man, then spoke again, his voice firm. "My mother didn't die. She ran away from this house because of a secret you never accepted." Grandfather's hands trembled. His heartbeat quickened. Cold sweat seeped from his temples. "She ran because of me?" His voice was barely a whisper, like a man drained of all strength. The boy nodded, his eyes steady. "No fear, no accusation, only the truth. My mother said this house wasn't safe, not because of outsiders, but because of someone in the family." Grandfather closed his eyes tightly. His daughter's words from the past resurfaced. The crying, the pleading to be believed. "Dad, you don't know what he's done to me." He had dismissed those words, believed his eldest brother instead, not his frightened 17-year-old daughter. Grandfather whispered. "He hurt her, didn't he?" The boy didn't respond. He lifted his shirt, revealing a long scar across his torso, old and new wounds, as if someone had used him to carry the pain of the past. "My mother ran, but they found her. In the end, she didn't die in an accident." Grandfather's eyes widened. "What do you mean?" The boy looked down, his voice turning sharp. "She was murdered, and I saw everything." The front door creaked. Heavy footsteps echoed from the second floor, as if someone had just awakened. Grandfather turned sharply. His heart sank. A voice called from the stairs. "Do we have a visitor, Father?" The boy turned to the voice and said coldly, "Yes, he's the one who killed my mother." The figure on the stairs froze. Grandfather looked back at the boy. "Why are you here?" The boy raised his head, smiling faintly, but his eyes were ice. "For justice. And so the truth will no longer be buried in silence." Grandfather stood still, his eyes quivering, his heart falling like a stone from a great height. The footsteps came closer. A middle-aged man in pajamas descended the stairs. His face smiled, but his eyes were cold. He looked at the boy, then turned to Grandfather. "Who is this boy, Father?" The boy didn't answer. He stepped forward, pulled another photograph from his pocket, and handed it to Grandfather. "This is the last picture of my mother, before she disappeared." Grandfather took it, his hand trembling so much the photo almost fell. In the photo, the young woman wore a sad smile. A shadowy figure stood behind her. That man was the very one now standing before them. No, it can't be." Grandfather's voice was barely a whisper. The boy spoke slowly, clearly. "I know she came to see you one last time. She tried to tell you the truth again, but you still didn't believe her. The next day, she never came back." The air turned icy cold, though there was no wind. It felt like the atmosphere was wrapping around them tightly. Grandfather reached for his phone, hand shaking. I'm calling the police. The man on the stairs' expression changed. His smile vanished. He stepped down quickly. Dad, don't listen to this kid. But Grandfather raised his hand. Tears welled up in his eyes. Enough. I should have listened to her that day, but I chose wrong. The sound of sirens echoed in the distance. Blue lights flashed through the windows. The man froze. He turned to look outside, then made a run for the back door. But the boy pulled a small remote from his pocket and pressed a button. Every door in the house locked with a loud click. I came prepared, he said with a smile. This time, my mother will finally rest in peace. The man turned back, his eyes bloodshot, his face filled with rage and fear. You little brat, you have no right to do this to me. He charged at the boy, but before he could reach him, a gunshot rang out. Bang! Everything froze. Grandfather stood, holding a pistol, its barrel pointed at the ceiling. Don't touch him, he said with a voice full of authority and pain. The man halted, staggered back, his face pale. The sirens drew closer. There was a knock at the front door. Grandfather opened it. 2 police officers stood there. The boy stepped forward and handed over all the evidence he had. Photos, the locket, an old diary, and an audio recording his mother had made before she died. The police took everything, then walked inside and arrested the man. The sound of handcuffs locking echoed, like the closing scene of a long-buried tragedy. Grandfather slumped into a chair. His eyes were red and swollen. It was my fault. I let trust destroy everything. The boy looked at him, his face calm, but sadness lingered in his eyes. My mother never hated you. She was just heartbroken that the person she loved most didn't believe her. Grandfather closed his eyes. Tears fell silently, but this time, not for loss, but for the truth that had finally come to light. The boy walked out of the house. Gentle sunlight welcomed him. The rain had stopped, and a wounded heart had just begun to heal. He stood before the mansion, looked up at the clearing sky. Sunlight filtered through the clouds. He breathed easily after waiting so long. At last, the truth was acknowledged. Grandfather followed him out, holding the framed photo of his daughter tightly. He handed it to the boy. You were the most precious thing to your mother, and now you are the most precious thing to me too. The boy took it silently. The woman in the frame smiled softly, as if watching him from afar. He nodded. Now she can finally rest in peace. Birds chirped softly. The wind rustled the trees. Leaves fell gently to the ground. Grandfather turned to look back at the mansion, once full of darkness and secrets. Today, it became a place where forgiveness could begin. He bent down and held the boy's hand tightly. Let's start again, the way your mother would have wanted. The boy nodded, his small hand gripped back firmly. 2 figures, young and old, walked side by side into the warm light of a new day. A story of pain, silence, and buried secrets ended with the courage of a boy who refused to let the truth drown with the rain.